A couple of years ago when Stalker 2 was released, I remember it being a particularly big deal. And even though I liked the look of it and it seemed like a game that I would potentially like, I didn't really understand the hype around it or where it had come from. Even then, at the time, I had no idea that there was a original Stalker trilogy. Now, of course, I do, and I've still kind of had the urge to play Stalker 2, but I wanted to play the originals first. I have just played and completed the original Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. It took me around 14-15 hours, and I think if you were a fan of the game when it released, I understand the hype for when 2 came out. But let's just talk about it. Let's talk about my experience, and I will share my opinions on the game. So despite it being almost a 20-year-old game, the first thing to really smack you in the face is how much atmosphere this game really does have. At the start of the game, you are a stalker. You don't even know what a stalker is. You are suffering from amnesia because, video games. And you're referred to as the Marked One, and you're kind of dumped into this barren, dreary world divided by factions and mutants, danger, everywhere you turn. But despite the world being so barren, and despite this almost being a 20-year-old game, the atmosphere is just abundant. Whether it's the weather from strong gusts of winds blowing leaves past your character, or whether it's the thunder cracking in the sky, lighting up the map, groups of stalkers sitting around a campfire playing guitar, speaking in their native Ukrainian language, packs of dogs in the background howling, deciding whether you're going to be today's lunch, distant gunfire between factions that are just fighting outside of your character's narrative. It all just makes the world feel, despite being incredibly empty, feels very lived in. And for a game of its age and the fact that most modern day AAA games don't quite get this right is a true accomplishment for the game. Now, obviously, the heart of the game, it is a first-person shooter. There are basic survivalent things, sprinkled underneath, like you need to eat food and what have you. Pockets of radiation are around that you need to kind of manage with vodka or medication, quite basic stuff. But the gunplay is at the heart. Now, at the start, the gunplay actually felt bad. Not because of how old the game is, though obviously that just is a factor. Games age, things move along. But how accuracy is done in the game. So obviously there are a number of guns in the game. You get games earlier on, the basic stuff, and obviously as you progress through the story, you tend to find or have access to buying better guns, and they don't scale in damage, though they might potentially use ammunition that does greater damage. The guns, I felt, scaled with accuracy, so the early guns are just really inaccurate. And in a game where body shots tend to make the enemies feel somewhat spongy, even later on with good guns, you can get some very heavily armored soldiers, which just can take a whole clip to the body, but they will all die with a single headshot. And it takes a few hours to realize that this is what the game's about. And then you start realizing how much more accurate you are if you crouch. You can't go prone in this game. Instead, when you hold circle, the crouch button, you then sink further into a deeper crouch, which your accuracy then becomes even finer. But all this stuff is just stuff you had to kind of figure out as you play in the game. So what starts is you feel like you are just shooting at enemies and the bullets are just not going towards the enemy. They are just flinging off to the sides, which is somewhat realistic. You don't just aim and your bullets just fly in a straight line. Certainly once you reach certain ranges. To then 10, 15 hours in, you've changed the fire rate of your gun to single fire. You start knowing about ammunitions, knowing what to equip, what to have on your backpack, and you walk around just going for the headshot. You're not spraying, you're not praying, you're just popping heads, and it feels really good. I can't explain to you how different the gunplay felt from me starting off at the game to me ending the game. It was like two different experiences, but you just had to kind of ride that learning curve and get better guns, obviously, as you went on. And the gunplay naturally just ties in with the difficulty. Now, having never played any Stalker game, I was somehow aware that they were kind of infamously difficult games, which is fine. If done right, I enjoy that. And for the most part, it was done right. Enemies at close range, especially if they have a shotgun, can just wipe you out immediately. If you are surrounded by a pack of wild mutated dogs, the chance of you being able to kill them all before they kill you are slim. I mean, I've died from anomalies just around the map, radiation. And because of that, it really makes you want to loot every character. You need to find medkits, find more ammunition, find ways to counter the radiation. Take corners slowly, pre-aim around, crouch and move. It's a very slow-paced kind of tactical gameplay when you're in a enemy engagement. But where I didn't enjoy the difficulty, and I know this is typical of older games, but it was really just in like the last kind of section of the game, the last mission, the difficulty spike was unreal. I think I died 3 times over, maybe 4 times over. More than I died in my entire playthrough to get to the end section. It was just ridiculous. The amount of enemies, how heavily armored they are, how tight-knit the corridors are, it was a pretty just tough push at the end. Now, I'm willing to accept that I probably went in not as prepared as some other players are that have played this game. Since completing it, I've learned that there are actually 7 endings. I wanted to kind of know what they were and what you needed to do to be able to do it, because I had a pretty bad one. But yeah, I also realized that there is a lot of... I did a fair bit of the side stuff, but to get some of the good endings, there was like this arching story side content that is super crucial to the game that I just completely missed. So I'm also willing to accept that equipment-wise, I probably was not underprepared, but could have done more. But the last section's also very long. And as you're just constantly taking damage and using your heals, etc., the durability of your armor falls, which means all your statistics are falling. There's no way to kind of repair. You only ever just equip another piece of armor. I didn't find any. And just by the very end, I had about quarter durability. All my stats are only a quarter of what they could be, which means radiation was doing more damage. Bullets were doing more damage. I was super low on heals and ways to counteract the radiation. And just, yeah, the ending was just a real tough moment for me. And like I said, I had a bad end. One of the 4 bad endings, 2 are good. And it wasn't very satisfying. I'll say that. You know, the story leaves something to be desired. There's, like I said, bits you can miss, which just are crucial to the story. It's kind of doesn't guide your hand in any way. Speaking to certain people, taking on certain side missions could just deliver crucial information to you. That's what it felt like, that you could just also easily miss. But I plodded through the story with, interest in kind of what's going on. At times there was writing and logs in my little personal PDA that just didn't make sense, because clearly I'd maybe missed something that I was supposed to do, but it didn't factor that in. So they were talking about somebody that I'd actually not even met. I don't know. There was just some odd little things like that. But as a whole, all of that still just didn't take away my good experience with the game. For a almost 20-year-old game, if you're not kind of running on nostalgia and you're actually just playing it for the first time and you still think this plays and actually looks okay and you enjoy your time with it, then it really is a good game. The trilogy's actually on PlayStation Plus games catalog for anyone wanting to check it out. I don't know if I'm going to actually play the full trilogy, because I know it's a prequel to the original and then I think a little sequel. But I do want to play 2. So if you played Stalker, let me know what you think. Did you play it back in the day? Have you played it later on in time? How did you get on with it? Because I don't know if it was made for PC, but the inventory system as well is on console quite the ball ache. To bring up a menu, flick through loads of little tiles to try and quickly use something before you die is you just felt clunky. So I want to know what people think playing it, like me, in modern day. And yeah, if you enjoy the video, guys, please drop it a like. It helps me massively. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I will hopefully catch you in the next one.